Hi, this is Odeean here. Today I've finally got my before and after SixSigma, which is a third-party version of the Sixgun toy that goes with Metroplex. I had this posted to me 3 weeks ago maybe. Australia Post has been holding on to it for 2 weeks, just doing absolutely nothing with it, but I finally got it today, so let's have a better look at this box. It's a really nice box. I've got to say it's better than the box that came with TFC's TFC 009. I'm not sure if it even had a name. Same waxy paper exactly. In fact, the box feels made of the same stuff, but the main positive, it's got an inner tray which is a bit more robust. It's a really good graphic on the front. It's very attractive to look at. Turning it around. Good all around. Nice pictures here, very crisp. It's really, really awesome. I'm going to open this up and we'll have a look at what's inside. On the inside we get a plastic insert. The insert has a lid to keep everything nice and secure. You can see in there that is held really nicely in place. That just makes the whole thing strong too, so it doesn't get squashed, and you can store things on top of the box without it compressing, which is the main problem I get with TFC's version of this guy. His box is a little bit flimsy. Okay, let's open up this plastic. Now there's no tape or anything, it just splits open, no annoying twist ties, he just pulls right out along with the other component. Normally I don't bother showing paperwork, but seeing as how my TFC's version of Sixgun came with absolutely no instructions, no stickers, no paper, nothing, I thought I might as well show this. We have an awesome sticker sheet, which I probably will put on, but I haven't at this stage. This little bit that shows you how to attach it into Fortress mode, a sticker application instruction sheet, and a transformation instruction, which seems to be done pretty well. I'd like to show the figure off, but before I do that, there is a kind of problem that I really got to show. These screws here, let me focus on it, at the bottom of the feet, be warned, they are poking out lower than the foot. It's not a problem for the toy, but if you've got nice furniture and you're thinking to sit this guy on top and then just push him around, these will drag and scratch the shit out of whatever you're putting it on. So I've got a black shiny glass entertainment unit, which I sat him on and moved him, and he subsequently put a little scratch on it, which is kind of annoying. He also scratched my black plastic tray that I take photos on, so be warned, these screws may need a little bit of tape or something just to cover them up if you've got anything nice that you want to stand him on. Now down to business. I am unapologetically in love with this toy. It is so good. It looks so much like how I want it to look in robot mode. I just love it. I don't know how much stronger I can say that. It looks how I imagined Sixgun is going to look. The face is sculpted so nicely. It screams Sixgun to me. It takes all its cues from the original, but with a kind of flair that is new and modern and unique. I love the sort of tapered shape of his body. He's not a just straight up and down figure, a lot like the TFC one. This guy is like a wedge, and it's something new. It's like characterful, and I just love it. Look at that, his wedge shape there. It gives him a bit of personality, that wedge, I think. The figure, although is primarily done in plastic colors, there are still a substantial number of paint apps on here, and the first one I'll bring up is the eye. I mean, it's a bit of a weird choice. It's a white paint app for the eye, but it does make the eye pop out. I don't know why they didn't paint it blue, but we've got a little bit of a baby blue dot painted in there, and a black region also painted in there. Some silver paint on these vent details. Bits of red paint in here, grey up here. So you can see there's quite a few paint apps for, well, if you compare it to retail toys, they never get that many these days. So this guy is kind of done quality. I quite like it. More paint on the side, paint on the back, paint in the back here, and that's interesting. Didn't notice that before. We've got some missile spam in there, which is painted up nicely. Silver on the back of the forearms. Little bits of black detailing everywhere. It's really done very well. I'm very, very pleased. I guess I better do a turnaround just so you can see that he looks good from every angle and that I'm not just exaggerating. I think he's very heroic in his stance and in his proportions. Just all his components sort of fit together really well. Now, he does have these peg holes you'll see here and here, which I'll get into later, but he's got them conveniently located so you can join other guns onto him, which is also pretty good. Now, I've gone with the Takara matching version, or Japanese matching version. There's two versions of this guy. There's one that has sort of black forearms and a two-tone paint job on the legs where you get some maroon along with brighter red. The one that I've picked here, Japanese one, is all done in the same red colouring everywhere and red on the forearms instead of black. I just liked it better. I don't actually have the Takara version of Metroplex. I have the Hong Kong exclusive one and the Hasbro one, but something about this colour scheme, I just preferred it, so I went with this way. There's pretty good posability. So first off, we've got, I know you can't really see it there, but the guns are posable at the back. You can point them forward or point them up, depending on how he's going to use it. We've got an ab crunch. I like ab crunch. It's probably part of transformation, which I haven't done yet, but even if I never transformed it, that ab crunch is useful. We've got a ball joint on the head, which can swivel all the way around, but it is somewhat limited by the shape of the head. We've got ratcheted shoulders, which also have this backwards and forwards shrug. Ratcheted in and out, which is kind of two parts. We've got the ratchet joint in here, and then this free spinning shoulder gizmo on the top. A bicep swivel. A double jointed elbow, but it doesn't really accomplish much more than 90 degrees, even though it's double jointed. A hand which can fall off, but swivels. Somewhat limited amount of in and out at the hips. It's really just one click. So this is the kind of neutral position. This is the A stance, and then that's it. There's no more. Swivel at the thigh. Ratcheted knee. It's a pretty hardcore sounding ratchet. Ankle tilts that don't follow through to the heel, just the ankle. And we've got backwards and forwards here. SixSigma also comes with this dude. Now, I'm trying to remember. I think the tank was Scamper. Anyway, I can't remember right now, but he comes with the tank just like G1 Metroplex had. That's pretty cool. It's a nice looking tank. It's done very well. It is a bit of a transformer, so you can push this bit up like that. And if I just grab something to grab a hold of it with, flip out this. So I guess it could be some kind of a little bit of a tower, much like the original. And we've also got this flipping action here. So depending on which way you want to put it. I haven't played around with it yet. I'm not sure how this would go on the base mode. To be honest, I don't really even care. I don't display my Metroplex in that mode. I have him like a huge brute standing on my shelf. And I think I'm going to keep this most of the time as a tank because it looks pretty cool. But you can peg it on to the arm here if you want Sixgun to have an extra weapon. Although it is a bit heavy. You can see he can hold it in a neutral way, but his arms are strong enough that they can hold it out like that, but his elbow can't really take it. So the shoulder can manage it, and if it's straight, it'll hold up, but he has a hard time holding it like that if you're putting the weight on his elbow joint. It does look a bit beefy, but I think it's pretty true to the original, which also makes me happy with it. Okay, time for comparison. So on the right, Six Sigma, on the left, TFC's version. So I've got both now. So I'm in a pretty good position to say which one I think is best. And in robot mode, just as I expected, Six Sigma is the most awesome and best looking. But credit where credit's due, TFC's incarnation is a lot better in robot mode than I had thought. And after I bought this guy, it grew on me a lot, and I would be happy to have this in robot mode. If before and afters version hadn't come along, I wouldn't have been too sad just owning this. But given that I do have both, I do think this one is better. Now, I haven't split him up into guns yet, and I'm still guessing that TFC's gun mode is going to be better, but he is also taller. You can see, look at that difference. The head on this guy only comes up to underneath the head on this guy. So he's a bigger robot, substantially bigger robot. Here is a comparison with something that almost everybody has, which is Generation Springer, and that really puts it in perspective, doesn't it? He is a huge toy. He is very big and good value. I mean, I'll get into the cost towards the end of the review, but I think what you get for what you pay is pretty good value. I mean, look at that. He looks like he should just, boom, smack him down. He's so huge. You can just go around hitting guys on the top of his head, on top of their head with that big fist. Like he's only up to the waist, and he's a decent sized Voyager Springer. So Six Sigma is just big, very satisfying. He's got different ways with which you can connect the guns off Metroplex, like the shoulder guns, because he doesn't actually come with black guns. So that's, I mean, if there's any downside to this figure, is that he doesn't have his own black guns, which means he's not really six gun because he's got less than 6 guns, but they do peg on exactly in the right spots in the forearms here. So if you like it on the forearm so that he can point more accurately, I guess, you can peg it in there. If you don't like it in the forearm, you can pull that off and stick them up here in the shoulder. It's a pretty tight fit, but the guns are pretty big, so I guess you need the friction. If you leave the forearms unpegged, then you still get poseability while not dragging the guns along with it. But if you want to, I think you can peg both at the same time. So that does lock the elbow up, but it also makes a really rigid blasting platform. Maybe the gun's so powerful he needs to hold it that way, I don't know. Now if you want, you can pull out this double barrel gun that's at the back. Let's have a closer look at that. That's really nice. Sticks really closely to the source material too. The G1 toy looked a lot like that, and it actually pegged in with one peg just like that, and rotatable, pretty cool. Now you would think that you can stick this into his hand, but it doesn't really work that way. This is a bizarrely sized peg hole. I'm not really sure what this fist is supposed to be compatible with. It's much bigger than 5mm. I don't really have a clue, but you can take that off and put it in either one of these arm pegs like this, so he can hold it on his forearm, or you could put it up here in the shoulder. Again, the elbow has a little bit of trouble holding the weight. You can see that slow movement there. I also feel that it's a very tight fit. Although there's no signs of stress forming in any of these places, I do worry that forcing it in too deep here is going to maybe break off this, because just the sound of the plastic, it sounds brittle. I have no evidence to say that it's brittle. It could be as strong as anything. I really can't say that it's shown stress or anything like that, but it just has that sound where I'm worried about snapping it off if I try to force that the whole way in to get that little bit of extra friction happening. They've also been kind enough to make the screw holes here 5mm, so there's not one on both sides, but that's just kind of a fan service, so that if you want, you can peg guns into screw holes. That way you can hold both on the same arm at the same time, and that's very thoughtful of them. Not everybody makes screw holes the right size. If I had any suggestion to before and after when it comes to figures in the future, it would be maybe round holes are not the way to go. Hexagonal holes seem to work a little bit better in my opinion, and that's mainly because the little hexagonal leftover shape lets the air in and out as you peg things in, which just makes everything easier. I mean, you can still get a lot of friction, just not so much effort is required pushing it in. Let's transform Sixgun into gun mode. Okay, there's a satisfying amount of transformation really, so pull off this for a start. The next thing we want to do is just grab both halves and pull off at the hips like this. Now, I don't know how long that's going to last. Yeah, I'll give you a bit of a close-up here. You can see it's just kind of flexing plastic that goes over this little ridge here to hold it on. So although it works really well now, many uses of the in and out might eventually wear that down, so I do want to avoid that in the long run. The next thing, let's transform this into turret first. So he looks pretty cool still there. Start with the hands, bend this out, bend this back. As you push the hand in, it pops out this little bit here. We'll close that back up. Do the same on the other side. That just goes up. These go out like that. Now flip the head over, and we're actually going to use the screw hole in the back of his head to peg this gun into, which again, another cool use of screw holes. The head is just chilling out down there, pointing downwards, and if you did look at it like that, you can still see his face, but I mean really, we're not going to look at it like that. So that's about it. I mean, it's not an overly complicated transformation, but it looks good. I like the look of this. It doesn't look like robot bits. It does look like a turret. These pegs are sticking out, so you can't really sit it flat on the ground. Oh, you can sit it flat on the ground. Well, that works better than I had thought. I thought that it's going to just fall over, but it is pretty secure, so you don't really even need to peg it into Metroplex to use this. Now he can just point these up and down to pretend to shoot them wherever you want. You could even pose these in different ways, just personal preference. Nothing's really locked in. But I guess the real important action comes with the gun. So here we've got it as it would be as a leg. The first thing I'm going to do is fold this up. That is just a friction joint, but it does seem to be just strong enough to hold in there. We're going to pull out this front section like that. Next thing I want to do is start bending this up, but I want to focus on this little detail because this is a worry. Out of the whole figure, this is only section which really bothers me. You can see this thin piece of plastic here is basically the ratchet. It bumps up and down on that gear. That's all well and good until you get to this point. Now at this point you have to start pushing hard because that's going to extend this out a little bit so that you can do that. So you can see this whole section got levered out. It just gave you enough bite so you can grab it and pull it. So that's all the way out. But you can see that it's kind of blocking here on this piece. But for it to be fully transformed, you've got to do that. And it feels like it's going to break off. Like it's enough force happens pushing on this that you could accidentally snap it, which is a worry. Okay, so yep. I think that's got to stay like this. I think that's done. So that's it. You'll notice that this is not so great. It's a little bit floppy. So like it's a bit of a compromise. If I grab the gun from TFC's version, you can see that side by side, TFC's one looks exactly like Metroplex's gun is supposed to look, whereas this before and after version, it looks like a big red gun that might be Metroplex's, but it is not anything like the G1 gun. So it's a bit sad, really, because these figures are both so good at opposite things that you really need to get both if you want to have the experience of both modes being perfect. And also, look at that, the TFC version is pretty solid. That joint up here that connects the handle on, that is not going anywhere, whereas this one is not so good. I mean, he's always going to be holding it, I guess, but unless you butt it up to the hand, it's going to be floppy. So I'm going to get Metroplex and have a look to see just how that affects him being able to hold it. Here's Metroplex, Titan class Metroplex, holding the gun. Now, it does peg in very solidly into the palm here, so that is not an issue. It's at least as solid pegging in as any of the other guns that I got. It even feels maybe just a little bit tighter than the ones that came with it and TFC's one. I found that if you try to close the hands, it levers it out, which is actually not good. So if you just leave the hands kind of like that, it tends to work better because the friction is quite high. But we do have a little bit of this floppiness. But to be honest, I mean, you can see here that the thumb, once you close the thumb up, the thumb is touching it, which stops the flopping from happening. So as I move his arm up and down, it does not flop. The thumb is actually stopping it from flopping. So although out of the hand, it is not as secure as TFC's version, in the hand you wouldn't really notice the difference. Now, that looks pretty cool. Oh. And finally, here's both at the same time. So you can see both work pretty good. Both do look pretty good. So, I mean, a lot of this is personal preference. I prefer the TFC one in gun mode, but they both do look pretty good. Whoa! Now there's a problem. And one thing I will say about both is that Metroplex looks loads better carrying this gun than his original gun. I got nothing against that original gun. It is good for an updated version, but I prefer to keep it as a shoulder mount. For his hands, these things just add so much. I know they're kind of expensive just to get guns, but I do feel that it's definitely worth getting these. In city mode, the part where the turret is supposed to peg in is here, where the two screw holes are. But if I come right up on top like this, you can see that the screws are pretty shallow, so there's not really that much room for anything to peg in there. And especially when you can see how long these pegs are, basically all that happens is that those pegs just sit like that. They don't go the whole way in, and it can just hang around there. It's not really integrated with the figure fully. Like it doesn't stay there. If I do that, it'll just fall off. It looks fantastic, but as far as play goes, it will just fall off like that. There isn't really a way that you can lock it securely in. And this tower unit, which would seem like it should peg in this way so that the good side's facing forward, can't actually peg in. It's not long enough, so you have to peg this one in like this. But the problem with doing it that way is that you get this ugly side facing the front. So I don't really know what's going on with that. I went ahead and applied all the stickers. So let's have a turn around. One annoying thing is they only gave enough stickers to apply to one gun. So my other gun has no stickers on it. That's why I'm only showing one gun here. I think they might have just not realized what they'd done, because I can't imagine why you'd want an asymmetrical figure. So maybe they didn't count it properly. But anyway, turning it around, you can see on the chest up here, some nice stickers in these bits. On the top, stickers here, here. On the sides, these are stickers. They fit exactly in where the black paint was, so just adds a little bit more detail. Some nice stickers on tank here, underneath, at the side up here, going down to the sides of the legs, these big ones here. Now, because there's a seam right underneath that sticker, it doesn't look so good. That's a little bit, that's probably the weakest one. Some on the sides up here. It's not overboard, but just enough to give it that feel of old style. And normally I don't bother to apply stickers to my figures. I would just keep the stickers, but I don't know, something about this just screamed out to me that it should have them. Probably because Metroplex himself has a lot of stickers, and also the original Metroplex had a whole bunch of stickers too, and it gives it that kind of vintage feel that I really, in this toy, I just really like that feel. I don't know, it's good. My final thoughts, as I've said over and over again, this is great. I love it. But what I didn't mention is the value is really good. So after shipping, I paid, I think, $100, maybe a bit less than $100. This is a big figure that is made really well, and quality materials, sticker sheet, everything does what you expect it to do. I think $100 shipped for that, you're not going to get a better deal than that. I mean, I know the transformation isn't complex, and maybe that's why they can charge that lower price. I mean, obviously, they thought no one's going to buy it knowing that it doesn't transform much if they go any higher. But I think it's a good buy. I mean, I'm not missing out on anything by complex transformation. This character isn't supposed to have a complex transformation. As far as the physical feel of the toy is concerned, I mean, apart from being really nice quality plastic, like it's hard, it's crisp detail and shiny. Apart from that, it does have a lot of the physical feel and characteristic of some of the TFC stuff that I've got. Now, there's no mold flash or anything like that, so they're not, that's not what I'm talking about. It's not the weak points, but just when they're at their strongest, it does have that similar kind of feel. So, I mean, I'm not insinuating that this is TFC under another name. I'm just saying that maybe where this originates from, it shares some facility or something like that, because not all third-party toys feel the same, you know what I mean? This has that same hardness and shininess of the plastic that I'm used to from them. So at the end of the day, I highly recommend it. If I had to force the issue and choose which one I was going to get, which version of Sixgun, I would go with this one, because as a robot, he looks really good. And he does form a pretty good set of guns as well. So in my mind, the overall package it's just a little bit better with this one because of the trueness to the character. But I think anyone would be happy with either set. They're both pretty good. So this is my video review for before and after SixSigma. I'm odeean. Thank you for watching.